Hey, sometimes it's necessary to migrate your site to another content management system or platform, or even change your name and rebrand. How can you maintain your SEO when you're making major changes like that? Let's take a look and talk about it. All right, so sometimes it's necessary to rebrand a site, to change its name, to move to a different platform. Maybe, for instance, you have outgrown something like Wix or WordPress and you're moving to a more robust content management system. Or maybe you're moving your website to a new e-commerce platform. That move can impact your SEO immensely, and for a few reasons. So one of the things that it happens in a lot of content management systems is that even if you are not particularly changing the overall look and feel of your site, or maybe it's just a change to a new CMS, they may have different guidelines as far as the structure of the site. So there's different category structure, there's different URLs for your different pages. So maybe your blogs have changed. For instance, in Shopify and sites like that, it may start with blog / something, whereas a WordPress site maybe doesn't have that. So one of the things you need to do is be cognizant of those changes in your URLs. So is there going to be structural changes in the site? Are there going to be new pages? Are there going to be different page names? All of that you're going to need to be aware of before you make that switch and start documenting that. So the other thing is if it's a rebrand. So if you're changing the name fundamentally, it's a whole new URL. And so Google's going to need to understand that. And, how do you switch that? Do you keep the old site and just switch to a new URL? No. So Google has actually come out and said that the best thing for you to do in a situation like this is to actually do a 301 redirect, which is the main redirect that we use when pages go away or sites change, like what we're talking about today. So that 301 redirect essentially tells Google this old page has gone away. Now transfer what we call the official term Google juice. That's not the official term, but the equity that page has built over time, the awareness that Google has of it, any links to it, all of that kind of stuff is going to permanently redirect to the new URL. And so what you can do is take pages that on your site and individually redirect them using 301 so that specific page, if it's ranking really well, is going to the same content on the new site where it can then transfer its Google juice. And that ideally is not going to impact it for a long time or not at all during that transition. If that page is going away entirely, you can redirect that to a page that you want Google to be aware of instead. So if it's different content, maybe that content just went away altogether, you can either send them to your homepage or to a category page or another page on the site that you do want Google to transfer that to, and that customers would be inclined to like that content so that they don't bounce. If that's not possible, you can just do a 301 redirect either at the server level for the entire site. So you're not doing individual URLs, you're doing the entire site. And so you can actually take your old domain, do a 301 redirect to the new domain. And this can also be done, for instance, at the registrar level. So GoDaddy or whoever you're registering your domain with, you can do a permanent redirect at that level so that people aren't even hitting another server. You don't have to maintain hosting. It's literally if somebody has typed in your URL, they're going to get sent to that other page. Now, this isn't always going to work on the GoDaddy level. If they've typed in, for instance, a specific URL or clicked on an old link, or even if some of those search results are still showing up in Google, they may get a 404 error. So that's something to be aware of. Ideally, you'd want to do it at the server level for all the individual pages that mean something. And Google recommends keeping those redirects up for about a year. Now, if you can't do that, if you don't have the ability to do any of those redirects because you either don't have the access or you don't have the development team to do it or the time, you can just eliminate that old site. What you shouldn't do is keep both sites around because those may have different information on them, which it could be different, obviously, company names if you're rebranding. It could be different phone numbers, whatever that is. They're going to be different. It's going to be confusing to users. Google's not going to like that. So I've seen instances where a company has had, like, for instance, an old Wix site, they transition to something else, and don't turn that old site off. And when somebody searches for your brand or searches for a business in your area or something like that, you may get those 2 pages showing up. And so that old page is going to have outdated information. They're going to be confused about which site is which, where they need to order or what they need to do or how to contact you. It's just a bad idea. So worst case scenario, turn off your old site, encourage Google to start indexing your new site. It will see a hit for, some of the traffic and that kind of stuff until your site rebuilds, but it's better than confusing your users. So like I said, let's show an example, for instance, of what I'm talking about as far as the URLs. So you can see this company is using a WordPress site, I believe, WooCommerce. And you can see that the taxonomy for their URL is product hyphen category, and then it's the product category, and then the subcategory. On a Shopify site, it's going to be slightly different. So Shopify uses collections instead of the category, and then you'd have, for instance, the subcategory. Similarly, if you drill down into a product, it's going to say products as a category, right? And so in a non-Shopify site, it's going to say sleeves. Let's drill down into an individual sleeve. And it just says product and then the sleeve. So those URLs are going to change. So if you were, for instance, migrating from this WooCommerce, in this situation, the product category could probably stay the same, but you may have changed, for instance, the name of the product, right? And so you just want to make sure that if you're just switching platforms and not switching the brand term, that this is consistent. It's going to point to where you want it to, right? That is important from not only a Google perspective, but a customer perspective. We've run into situations where we've platformed sites and people don't realize how many backlinks they have to their sites. And so all of those links for, if your site's been around for 5-10 years, there's potentially thousands of backlinks to your site that people are still clicking on to get to your site. And they're going to see a 404 error. And so obviously you don't want that. So you're going to need to be cognizant of those name changes, the URL structure, and any other changes that are happening to the site itself, right? So 301 redirects are extremely important. You're also going to want to make sure that you update your business directories, any other directories where there's links to your site, right? So that way it's not forcing 301s, and that way you're also getting in some, decent quality backlinks to your new site or your new brand. So if those pages have changed, if there's something out there, you can go update your profiles and your various directories like Yelp or Google Business listings and that type of thing. Make sure that your information is consistent where you have it listed. That's particularly important with a brand change because, that's a pretty significant change. So how do you go about building these 301 redirects? So it's really dependent on the technology that you're using, the platform that you're using. Some of these will need to be done at the server level. So like on an Apache server, they can build those 301s into that. If you have a CMS that has this built in, you have a lot of CMSs that if you're using the same domain name, you're going to be able to build in a 301 redirect. So for instance, in Shopify and in various platforms like that, there's plugins for WordPress. You can actually go through and say, hey, this was the existing URL, change it to this one. And that's going to create a 301 redirect for those pages. Now, you can see how that would take a lot of time. So if you have thousands of pages on your site, you may need to be building 1,000 301 redirects. If those pages no longer exist, you can still build that redirect, but just put them to like the homepage or another page that you want to rank or you want to send people if that content doesn't exist anymore. So one of the tools that we use regularly is, and a lot of CMSs will allow you to export your various pages. If you don't have access to that, one of the things that we recommend is using Screaming Frog. You can actually do a scan of your site and choose HTML because you don't necessarily want all of the various, CSSs and stuff like that. And so this will give you a scan of theoretically all of your pages that exist on the site. So it's all the different collections, product pages, all that kind of stuff. And then this can be exported. So once you have this here, you can export this from Screaming Frog into a CSV, and that way you can start to build out those 301 redirects. Now, there are a lot of content management systems that will, if you have that CSV, you can actually build it out upload it into the 301 tool, and that will create those for you. Otherwise, you have to individually do it, which again can be a big job, but it is an important job because that's telling Google what has changed, and so people don't start landing on 404 errors. So the other thing, once you've done the 301s as best as you can, monitor your 404 reports. So you can go into Google Search Console and start to keep track in there of potential 404 errors that are coming through that maybe, people are just not finding those pages that you need. If you have your analytics set up correctly, you can also measure this so that you can see how often that 404 page is actually being triggered. You can do that in GA4, for instance, into your pages reports, where you can see like our 404 pages being triggered a lot. And keep track of that. If it's going up, then you know that you have work to do, and you can see that. All right, so let's take a look in Google Search Console, and you can see here there is a report for 404s. So they have soft 404s. That is where they think it's a broken page. It could just be a load issue, or a hard 404, which is pages not found. And so it will actually list those pages out for you to show you which ones it's not seeing and it's scanned any longer. You can export those right here and then build your 301s off that. So there is a list of those pages in the reporting. And once you've seen those, once you've built out those 301s, still keep track of it because it's an ongoing process. Obviously, you can't always not have 404 pages because there's going to be times when you take a product away or do something like that, or it's just moved. Totally understandable, but something to keep an eye on. So the other thing you can do is take a look at the index pages in your site. And so if, for instance, there's a big switchover from the number of pages that you had indexed, now suddenly you have a lot fewer indexed, that could be also symptomatic of Google just not seeing those new pages. They may see them, but not index them if they're new pages. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's just, is Google seeing this content? Did it change? It's something to measure and keep track of. And that way you can go in and either do more 301s or to try to do more internal links to those new pages that maybe you don't have or haven't built out in the new website or new domain. Those internal links are extremely important, obviously, for helping Google spider your site. So anytime you make a change to your site, whether it's the design or switching platforms or obviously rebranding and changing to a new domain name, is going to have an impact on your SEO. It doesn't have to be a bad impact, because I have seen sites that, for instance, when they switched even domains, they have rebranded. It actually has helped that because maybe they did things to the site that were better optimized. Maybe the site performs better. It's faster. All of those things can have a positive impact. A lot of the time, though, you're going to see an initial drop-off. So hopefully it's not dramatic. If you follow the right steps of 301 redirects and just monitoring and triaging what might be going wrong, you can mitigate that to some extent. But there probably is going to be a slight drop-off, although we have seen them bounce back significantly depending on how well the site is designed. So keep those in mind. The last thing you want to do is having two sites live at the same time. And then you also want to set up as many 301 redirects to the relevant content as possible. It just communicates to Google that this is where they should send the new traffic and the new Google juice, so that you don't have big drop-offs in your SEO. If there's stuff that you're doing for transitioning new sites or migrating, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And stop by for more, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.